Hey folks, Brian here with my review of the Runequest role-playing in Glorantha manuscript. Today's probably going to be a short one. We're just going to be discussing, or I'm going to be discussing, the section on runes. So obviously this is a fairly new concept for the game, since Runequest 2 and 3, well, they discussed what runes were, what they represented, that kind of thing, really go into depth on using them. Well, in the manuscript, it's got a little thing here on describing what runes really are. Again, it starts out with a saga of the Sana saga again, which is really cool. These one-page diary entry, adventure explanation kind of things. They're still pretty cool. It says runes are the building blocks of Glorantha. They are the symbols, archetypes, embodiments, and actual matter or energy of the middle world. Runes originated with the very creation of Glorantha. They define the cosmos and everything in it. We discussed earlier on about how runes tie into character creation and the 5 elements and the man-beast for humans, and then the power and form runes and how they have parallels, or connections, opposites, that kind of thing, and how they're part of your character as well. Here they start with magic. Runes and magic, obviously, they're tied together, right? Now you can use runes to augment certain skills, which we talked about before, and to define characteristics or characteristic behaviors. And it's touched on earlier. This is something that I would bring up with my players when I was running games at Gen Con and Origins. It's the fact, runes have personality types to them. Someone who's really high in the fire rune is going to have that fiery temper, short, very passionate kind of person. Somebody who's more into the water rune may be more, relaxed, low key, that kind of thing. So, and the whole section on runes in the previous chapter is all about all the different definitions of what that is. In rune magic, every spell is associated with one or more runes, and your rune staff, like a better word, your percentage in that rune is what you need to roll or less to be successful in casting that spell. So if it's more than one, if there's 2 different runes, you get to obviously choose the better of the 2, the higher percentage, and that's your percentage to cast. Then it goes to runic inspiration, and inspiration is mentioned all throughout the on and off throughout the manuscript through this point. And again, runic inspiration is to augment a skill roll or to increase your percentage on the resistance table. Now it differentiates here between elemental runes and power and form runes. The elemental rune you can use to inspire a single non-combat skill or sense or weapon. And obviously all these things are associated with whatever that rune is. With the power and form runes, you can use it for any skill that's in accordance with that rune. And the runes will have skill categories and sometimes specific skills as well that they're associated with. Some of the mechanics on this runic inspiration that I'm still struggling with. And one of them is being inspired. You can only attempt to be inspired once per situation or scene. And then once you are inspired, you can only be inspired once, again, per situation or scene. I'm sure that was different. But each rune, there we go. Each rune can only be used for inspiration once in a season. That's a significant mechanical limitation on the use of runic inspiration. I don't remember that coming across in Passions. I think Passions is the next section that I'll be covering. And it certainly doesn't mention that in using skills to augment other skills. Again, it goes through the critical success, gives you a plus 50, plus you get experience check on your rune. A special success, plus 30 standard, plus an experience check on your rune. A regular success, standard 20 again, and an experience check on your rune. For a normal failure, minus 20%, and all further rolls using that rune are at minus 20% until you spend a day in meditation. Critical failure or fumble, you lose 1d10% from that rune, and you're in psychic turmoil, which can last from 1d10 melee rounds to 1d3 game days. And that psychic turmoil means you cannot use that rune, and they put it in here specifically, including rune magic, but you have to roll the rune to cast the rune magic. So I would make that an assumption rather than, a specific example or specific separation. And it also says here that the character should avoid acting in accordance with that rune while they're in their psychic turmoil. Cool role-playing aspect to it, no real mechanics, so I don't have really issues with that. But both the regular failure and the critical failure, neither of them discuss what the mechanical effects are for what it is you're inspiring to do. For example, if you're using a rune to inspire a search roll, it doesn't say if you get a regular failure, what's the modifier on the search roll. Now, we know from all the other stuff it's minus 20. Neither does for critical failure, although from all the other tables it's minus 50. So that was kind of odd they didn't mention that. Could be just a typo, oversight kind of thing. It goes right into the secondary effects of a failure and a fumble. Double dipping for the negative, but never for the positive. I don't like that. I just do not like that. If you're allowed double dipping, it should go both ways. Then it goes into runes and personality, discussing how runes can be used for casual behavior guidelines. If you're high in a certain rune, you're more likely going to act that way. If you're low in a certain rune, odds are you're not going to act that way. I have no problem with that. It makes sense. I role play that fairly well, and I use that a lot with the whole traits deal from Pendragon. And we'll talk about that sort of thing here in a bit too. But it talks about magical tests. And they give a couple examples. For example, there's a sword. You cannot wield that sword, you can't pick it up, unless your death rune is 50% or more. It's got an attunement to the rune. I thought it was really cool, and you can get pretty wild with this kind of stuff. I like that concept of these magical tests. And again, they can be either a certain percentage in order to do something, or you have to do an opposed roll to get something to happen. That kind of stuff happens. Not a whole lot of detail or mechanics involved with that. Just that there are these things, magical tests, and they give a couple examples. And then it goes into runes and passions and when they conflict. Because your personality, you can have personality disputes. How we talked about the runes affecting or defining your personality, and they discuss that again. Your runes define your personality. And your form and your power runes, which are opposites again, can define your personality as well. Are you more harmony-based or discord-based? That kind of thing. And you've seen people that are both ways. So that's real. But sometimes a rune and a passion can conflict. And they talk about loyalty to Lord versus honor, or like a fire rune or something, some skill or a personality thing tied to fire. And some role-playing aspect appears where they're in conflict. And you can make rolls. Determine, which does your character actually do? Does the fire rune overcome his loyalty to Lord? That kind of thing. And the same with the power and form runes. Does your loyalty to whatever, and we'll talk about this in passions too, any of the passions, Does it have a conflict with, your harmony or your discord or your stasis or your mobility, that kind of thing? And you can roll it all out if you wanted, or you can just take, what's the highest and just go with that way. It also mentions that a game master can assign you experience checks for when you act appropriate to your various runes. Well, that's pretty cool. Would I have done something similar anyway? Yeah, probably. That's one of those bonus things, There's no mechanic for it. It's one of those role-play-esque type concepts that if you're role-playing a personality trait in a certain rune and you're doing that heart and heavy, give yourself a rune check for that. So when the season's over, you get to roll and see if it actually goes up. Now that makes sense. If you act a certain way a lot, odds are it's going to increase. No problems with that. Like I mentioned, it's kind of short one, just almost 11 minutes. But it was just runes. It was a handful of pages. But I didn't want to combine it with passions, although they're very similar, and we'll cover a lot of duplicating steps. Passions came with like three note cards worth of notes on that one. But I'll do that one next. So stay tuned. Ciao.